What's up, everyone? This is Dr. Jeff from the Joint Chiropractically. I am joined by a very special guest today, Dr. Tessa Henville, chiropractor from Wellness on Wellington. Dr. Tessa has a spring of wonderful knowledge that we're going to share with you here today. And with today's video, we're going to be talking about chiropractic and the spine's effect upon brain function and health, which Tessa holds a specialty in. She's a neuro specialist, a chiropractic neurological specialist, and she can get into a little bit about that right now. Why don't you just first of all explain for everybody some of your credentials?
Okay, so the qualification I hold in functional neurology is a US-based qualification. So as you know, Dr. Jeff, in Australia, chiropractors can't specialise. We don't have the capacity to become a specialist. In North America they do, so I've undertaken some training over there.
Yes.
I hold something called a Diplomat of the American Chiropractic Neurology Board.
Yes.
So you know, if I was living in North America, I'd be a specialist in functional neurology. Out here I'm just a good old chiropractor.
Okay.
But it means I've got a wealth of information behind me, and it lets me do some really cool and groovy things that supplement our adjustments.
Awesome. Awesome. And now, there's some great research that's been coming out of New Zealand and around the world, but there's a researcher by the name of Heidi Havoc.
One of our favorites.
Yeah, and she has been documenting the chiropractic effects, working on the spine in particular, but the effects that it has on the brain. Can you explain to us a little bit about the effects that she found in her research?
I would love to do that. So as you would know, you've been around as long as I have, one of the big challenges we have when we're talking about the wonderful benefits of chiropractic is the difference between what we know and what we have had other people scientifically prove for us.
Right.
So it's like when you watch the cop shows and it's like, I know he did it, I just have to prove it.
Yes.
Yep. So for many decades, we've been looking to find, well, how does an adjustment work? And we've been looking to the spine because that's what we adjust.
Yes.
And we were kind of, yeah, well, we see this and we see that, but there wasn't a single reproducible, this is what happens predictably every single time any chiropractor using any technique makes a spinal adjustment.
Sure. Yep.
And what Dr. Heidi and her team did is they said, well, we've done the spinal cord to death, what else could be happening here? And they went further north. So they followed the neurons, they followed the nerves through up to the brain. Yeah. And what they found was that when you adjust the spine, the biggest impact that makes on a human being is actually in their prefrontal cortex.
Okay, and why is that important?
Well, the prefrontal cortex, aside from anything else, is this the part of the brain that we have that other animals don't have to the same degree. That's where our humanness lives.
Yes.
So you would have had that anecdotal experience of having someone come in and say, "No, I've got this neck pain, Dr. Jeff," and we put a program together and we adjust them, and you check in down the track and you say, "How's that neck pain going?" And say, "Oh, okay, great, but what I've noticed is I'm sleeping so much better, and you know what? I'm not as grumpy with the kids. The kids are happier because they don't get as cross anymore." It's like, well, how on earth does a neck adjustment make you less cross with the kids? And what we found is it's because of what it does to the prefrontal cortex.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So what her research found is there was a 20% reduction in activity in the prefrontal cortex. Now, why would we want to see a reduction in it?
It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You'd think you'd want it to increase brain activity.
Yeah.
So when you have a look at something called functional imaging of the brain, so what we're looking for there is, rather than just taking a picture like with an MRI, we're looking to see what's the activity in the brain. And what we found over the decades that the researchers have been doing this is that most of the activity in the brain is what we call inhibitory. So we have a whole bunch of neurons that connect and they talk to one another. And most of the time, the signal that this neuron sends to this one is inhibitory, meaning it calms this one down and it makes it fire less.
Yes.
So a healthy brain has, it's well controlled, it's modulated is the term we use.
So if there's too much.
So if there's too much, we go haywire. So someone who is depressed has too much activity in the area of the prefrontal cortex that drives depression. Someone who is anxious has too much activity. Someone who has phantom limb pain, has got activity in an area of the brain which is no longer actually receiving any input.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's nothing telling it to calm down. So a decrease in prefrontal cortex activity actually tells us that what an adjustment does is it improves the brain's ability to modulate and control itself and respond to the environment in a more appropriate and more accurate manner.
Excellent. It basically reduces the noise.
Yeah, it reduces, but that's a great way of putting it. It cuts the background noise, cuts the static, so we get really focused, clear, precise communication.
Yeah. And it has a runoff effect. Then we assume that it's going to have a runoff effect on how we perceive our environment, how our brain works, and how we feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a runoff. I would say it directly influences that.
Very exciting because so many people today are so stressed out, and their brains would be in a hyper-excitatory state, and we can influence that through the spine.
We sure can. Yeah.
One of the things that we do in the office is we always measure limb strength. Now, the prefrontal cortex has also been shown to have effects upon limb strength and coordination as well. So we always measure grip strength, and then we'll remeasure, and we find an increase after a period of care. We find an increase in the majority of our clients.
And it's not because you're having all of your clients pump weights.
No, they're not pumping weights. There's a real neurological connection.
Yep. So again, it's to do with that decrease of the background noise.
Yes.
And the coordination of the signal.
Yeah.
And the focus was the word you used, of the signal from the brain to that limb. So when we think about, well, it's one muscle that does that, but that one muscle has thousands of individual fibers that contract, and each one of those fibers has its own nerve supply,
yes,
its own neuron that tells it to contract,
yes,
and if they are firing in sync, it's like when you got all your mates and you're gonna lift the trailer, 1, 2, 3, heave.
Yep.
If we go 1, 2, 3 and I heave and then you heave and then you heave and then you heave, we don't get that strength.
Right.
So the better the focus and the better the clarity and the less noise, the more precise and controlled and coordinated that signal is.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah.
It's a good analogy. Excellent. As a chiropractor, all chiropractors, anecdotally in our office, we hear people come into our practice, and when they start receiving chiropractic care, they will report that they're experiencing a greater sense of calm, a greater sense of well-being, maybe energetic changes going on in their bodies. And now the science is starting to catch up with one. Any parting thoughts?
Look, I want to come back to the spine a little bit, because we've talked about what does the spine say to the brain.
Yeah.
But why is it an adjustment to the spine that makes that difference? Why can't I rub you with a crystal and have the same impact in the prefrontal cortex?
Right.
And that is because gravity, some of this is in the research, some of this is what I've gleaned and my understanding from the reading I've done. Gravity is our only sensory constant. It's the only thing that doesn't change in our world, except for a lucky few who work for NASA. But it's the only thing that doesn't change.
Forces of gravity are always pulling.
Yeah, they're always there, 9.8 meters per second, straight down. So our ability to detect, process, and respond to gravity is the absolute most fundamental thing our brain needs to be able to track and do. And if that's out of whack, then everything else gets out. And in fact, we know that about 80% of what the brain is doing is relating to gravity.
Yes.
And then our response to gravity happens in our trunk, most of it.
Right.
Now, if we get pushed a really long way, we'll put an arm out. but most of it is truncal.
Right.
That's where our spine is.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why the spine is so fundamentally important to this brain regulation that we've been talking about.
So the spine's not functioning correctly?
If the spine is, if the spine's not functioning correctly for whatever reason, I trip, I'm stressed out,
yes.
I wear high heels.
Yeah.
If my spine is not functioning correctly, then my ability to detect gravity is compromised.
Yes.
My ability to respond to it is compromised.
Yeah.
And in the literature they talk about the nutritive effect of neuronal input.
Okay.
So what that just means is that a nerve firing has a healthy impact on the next nerve.
Yeah.
If we can't process gravity properly because we have a spinal problem, then the incoming data is simply not accurate. I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out.
So our reality is, in essence, changed because of the forces of gravity or spinal issues that are affecting us. And
in a very, very fundamental way, impaired spinal function changes your perception of reality.
And that in turn is then going to have a runoff effect into everything about us. Yeah. So
get adjusted.
Get adjusted. That's great. That's great advice. I love it. Yeah. Get your spine checked and adjusted. The better your spine works, the greater your body, and now the research is showing brain is going to function, and the runoff effect is for most people they're going to feel better, and you're going to have a greater sense of reality. So this has been excellent conversation.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
We're going to have another conversation here talking about how this is beneficial for children. But Dr. Tess, thank you very much. And you've been enlightening as always. Thank you very much. This is Dr. Jeff from the Joint Chiropractically. Have a terrific day.